Compared to the previous three films, Scream 4 is slow, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth the destination. Honestly, compared to the previous Screams, I don't have that many thoughts. There are not that many things I want to mention. There are not that many things that I think are worth mentioning, to be honest, because most of the film is slow. Most of the characters are not likable. Apart from the main ones, we have I'll discuss which characters are the main ones, but this will be a spoiler for the previous films because obviously certain characters survive the previous films, but I won't spoil anything for this film. But of course, we have Sidney and also Gale and Dewey and the return of Ghostface. But who is Ghostface this time? And what I will say is I thought I knew who it was. I was so confident I knew who it was, and I was wrong. And I'm glad I was wrong, because it always makes it so much more exciting when it's somebody I didn't think, but it makes sense. It's not one of those where they throw a surprise person in where there'd been no indication of who it was. And actually, looking back on it, I feel like there was a really obvious indication of who it was that I missed. And I'm annoyed at myself for missing it. But I really didn't see it coming. I think it's very well developed, very well written towards the end. Really wonderful scenes. And I don't want to say too much more than that, about the ending at least. But this is set, well, this was released in 2011. It's set 10 years after the last one. And in this one, Sidney is back in Woodsboro. And she's got a book about coming out of the darkness. Gale and Dewey are together. Things seem to be going well, but there are 7 stab films. And I have to say the intro for this, the intro for Scream 4 is like a film within a film within a film, and I didn't see it coming, and it's a bit of a tangled web to start off with, but it really kind of sets you up for the rest of the film, and I have to say it worked really well. It's the sound effects. The sound effects are incredible. There are some really amazing ones involving, well, knives, of course. There's a really squelchy sound at one point. And I think I liked a lot of the supporting characters, but I didn't like any of the students at all. I don't know why. Nothing against the performances. I think everybody's performances were really good, but I just didn't like any of those characters. We also have a new character, Jill, played by Emma Roberts, who's actually a relative of Sidney's and also a student. I thought that was interesting enough. We also have a female police officer, and I don't know how I feel about her. She annoyed me a bit, but I think she was meant to, so that's okay. Yeah, it was okay. It was a decent film. It was slow in parts, but stick with it. Definitely stick with it if you've watched it, or if you've tried to watch it and felt like it was maybe a little bit slow at times. I'd say it's worth it. Go back to it, give it another go. It's really enjoyable, very cleverly written, wonderful sound effects. The only thing I didn't like about this, as much as some of the others, is that I felt like Ghostface didn't have as much of a presence. In certain other films, the character is there and you can sense his presence, and when the character is on screen, the character takes the full attention. You can't look away from Ghostface. Whereas here, I felt like the character never got a chance to shine, which is peculiar. But hopefully you know what I mean by that. But it's just a minor thing. It didn't really affect my enjoyment. It just felt almost like Ghostface was secondary, which maybe is a good thing. Maybe it should be more about the characters, the victims, rather than Ghostface, but also the appearance of Ghostface, and sometimes the lack of appearance of Ghostface is what makes it terrifying. It is good. It's very good. Compared to the others, it isn't as interesting, but I still liked it. What are they going to do with 5 and 6? Well, please don't tell me, because I will immediately be watching 5 and then 6. Really thoroughly enjoyed watching these. Definitely a big fan of Scream, and can't wait to see what the next 2 have in store.